Welcome to another edition of What Saith the Scriptures television program. Verse by verse Bible teaching, exposition. Someone said I shouldn't use the word exposition. What did you say about the word? I shouldn't use it in posting it because it's too, what? I won't say bougie, but what did you say? Huh? It's niche. So in other words, the so-called algorithm doesn't know what the word exposition is. It'll just throw it out to, so I should go verse by verse. And the algorithm goes, oh, yeah, we understand that. But the algorithm AI, we're so intelligent, we can't define the word exposition. Okay. It'll just reach the 4 or 5 people that know what the word is. Ridiculous. Expositional verse by verse Bible teaching. I guess I should say verse by verse Bible exposition. Okay. All right. And we're still in our study of Isaiah chapter 40. We may finish 14 through 17. We'll just have to see. Like I said this morning, we're going to do this, and it didn't happen. And that's okay. It doesn't have to happen. I'm still looking at the comfort of God to Judah in this teaching. Well, we just celebrated our 250th anniversary as a country. I remember when it was bicentennial, when I celebrated the 200th, 200 years of our country, which was quite a festival at that time. 200 is big. 250 is bigger, but it didn't seem like it had the that the bicentennial had. They kind of watered it down a little bit, whatever reason. But I want you to remember all that as we get into our study, because America, America, God shed his grace on thee. We haven't recognized it yet. Round that good with brotherhood, whatever that means, from sea to shiny sea. Yeah, one nation under God, huh? Yeah, okay. You can't say these things publicly anymore to the professed church. You can't say what I'm going to be saying tonight, because it's going to be misunderstood, and that's not to be helped. After all these years of dealing with people and their churches, denominations, or pride and arrogance about whatever they know, whatever they think they know. And so few people want to go, you know what? We need to do a reboot. In fact, we may need to get a whole new system of understanding, because the things that we thought we knew, we really didn't know. And again, it took me a long time to get to this place, a very long time. And I'm glad I'm here. Now I'm learning stuff again for the first time. Except this time it's in greater depth than it was years ago. I'm learning more about who God is. And the natural effect of that is who we are. And in that understanding, I'm becoming more and more conscious of the fact of why God does what he's doing and how simple it all is. And once you get a hold of that truth, your eyes get open to things you've never seen about yourself, about the Lord, about others, about the world. It's like we keep throwing on glasses and glasses, and just keep looking through glass darkly and adding more darkness to the glass. Amazing. Let's go back. Verse 14. With whom took he counsel, who instructed him, and taught him in the path of judgment, and taught him knowledge, and showed to him the way of understanding. Who did the Lord take advice from? And who made God to understand something that he didn't know? Now, obviously, no one in their right mind is going to say that, well, that they're doing it, with the exception of many in the word faith cult and others as well. But that lunatic demonic group aside, no one's going to say, well, I taught God X, Y, and Z. No one in their right mind will do that. But in the practical sense, that's exactly what we're doing. As I said last time, every time we see what the Bible says and then negate what it says, and we replace what it says with what we believe or some other teaching, whatever, that's exactly what we're doing. We're telling people, don't listen to the counsel of God. Don't listen to the instruction of God. Don't listen to the judgment of God, the knowledge of God, the way of understanding about God. Listen to me and what I tell you. We do it in a practical sense. Which skillful expert taught the Lord in the way of understanding and wisdom and showed him something he didn't know? That is the paths of intelligence and insight. I mean, a person would even imply that as someone who's definitely lost his rocker. No one has done that. No one is doing it. No one's going to do it. And the point is that God doesn't have any needs by nature, by whatever. He doesn't have any needs, and he certainly wouldn't get it from us. In fact, the Lord said in the Old Testament, if I had a need, I wouldn't tell you. Why would I tell you? You can't do anything to provide for me if I had a need and I don't. But it's like we have this mindset where we're not willing to say that we really believe that he does, because we start questioning what he does, because we know better and we don't know better. We don't know who he is. We don't know who we are. And then we went to Acts 17, verses 24 through, and I added more than 26. Also added, well, I'll get to that because we're going to look at 27 and 28 briefly as well. God that made the worlds and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands. You can't make an idol out of God, because God is not worshipped with men's hands. You don't make God into an idol. God is God, as though he needed anything. All non-gods have needs. I don't care what it is you're worshiping. They all have a need. God has no needs. Quite the contrary, he's the one who gives life and breath and all things. God doesn't have any needs. The creation has needs. The creator has no needs. In fact, he's one who gives things that we need. Necessity of life, breathing itself. Hath made of one blood all nations of men. That's Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, that's it. Right from the beginning. For to dwell on all the face of the earth, and had determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation. So we concluded God is the creator of the world, everything in it, no doubt. Number two, he's the Lord of heaven and earth. He reigns over the control of everything and everyone. Whether we accept it or not is not relevant. Number three, he does not live in an earthly home or abode made by man's hands. Most people say, well, God was in our church today. No, he was not. He wasn't in your facility. A lot of people making that claim all over the world, every Sunday, Wednesday, whatever. And all that is non-biblical teaching. God is not put in a building. You cannot put the presence of God in a facility. That's what he says. What about the temple? What about the temple? Are you saying that because your facility is called Temple Baptist Church or Temple Methodist Church or Temple Church or Temple Kojic, whatever, that somehow the presence of God abides in your facility? You have lost your mind. That's nowhere taught near Scripture. God is in heaven. And if he didn't come to your facility in the person of the Spirit in you, he's not there in any other way. And I've heard people say, well, I saw the cloud of God in the church. You did not see the cloud of God in the church. You did not see that. I've known people personally that have told me that, and I've watched them going like, your glasses are too tight. You need to go to the optometrist and have them to, loosen them screws because your glass is too tight and it's squeezing the blood in your head to think that you saw the glory cloud of God in your facility. And they call me crazy for teaching through the Bible. I'll be insane. He gives life to man. He's the source of life, so he could not be dependent upon man because he's the source of life. What can man give God life? Please. Rather, man is dependent upon God. So much is man dependent upon God that God controls his breathing. So when you breathe and you have that good junk in your heart, well, God did that. It's not so much, we explain everything naturally, of course. Well, the electrolyte, junk. Well, it's not the electrolytes, is God doing something with our hearts, But we've been brainwashed to believe that we're so independent of God to the degree where everything is explained away naturally. Where there is no God, unless we're doing the chest clutch, then is OMG. But apart from that, we got it, Lord. We handle it. Mm-hmm. He controls the breathing. We haven't figured it out yet. See, all this is designed to get us to understand so we can worship him correctly and respond to him correctly. But this is something that for many, they're not going to get. Not because it's not available, because they have settled into this state of mind that they're okay. God controls our life. How long, how short it is, quality and quantity of it. And that's what it says. And not just one person, but everybody. You see, listen to me. There's going to be a lot of that today, believe me. The what if questions and the I don't understand questions and the why God questions all prove the point that you don't know who he is and you don't know who you are. God does not answer to us. He's under no obligation to answer any of my questions or yours. God doesn't have to demonstrate anything to us. Well, if God was a God of love, he put his son on the cross. Shut up. The greatest act of love was God gave a bunch of stinking, hell-deserving, good-for-nothing, low-down, dirty, rotten sinners the opportunity to be saved. And if he didn't give his son to do it, you would never, ever, ever be saved or ever have the opportunity. And that's the greatest act of love ever on this planet. And we dismiss it as if it's a human thing. So don't lecture anybody about if God was a God of love. Because I'm sure somewhere in your humanity, you did something that might have been the direct cause of the problem that you're now questioning God about. So we don't want to talk about it. He controls our livelihood. He not only controls the fact that he has given breath to the first man, breath of life, but still breathes it into every man. So he gave Adam and Eve life, and he still gives us life. Okay. And so next we said God is the creator of mankind. And from Adam and Eve comes the entire family of mankind that all dwell upon the earth. And that God determines their destiny, their habitation, their borders, race, language, cultures, etc. God determines all that. We don't. But when we ask the questions, well, where are these languages? Well, the language comes from blah, 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 blah. We already have an answer. We don't say the languages come from our creator. Everything is explained away on the human plane. And God hath determined the times before appointed. Talks about the sovereignty of God, about God's disposal concerning humanity. God has determined every event, and it's all fixed. And your tempered tantrum against sovereignty does nothing. Providence of God are incontestable, unchangeable, unalterable. You might as well just get in line with it and go, thank you, God. The balance of the habitations, the migration of all the nations that are here, that are gone, that were here, might be here tomorrow, might be gone tomorrow. Yeah, we've celebrated 250 years of existence. That's quite a feat. And we blew up a bunch of stuff and ate ourselves into a frenzy with the ribs and the chicken and the sausages and the mac and cheese and the sweet potato and pumpkin pies and apple pies and who knows what. Potato salad, what else? String bean casserole, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of artery clogging death plates went all over the planet yesterday and probably today as well. I'm good. I'm fine with that. Do what you want. Enjoy your food. Soft drinks and hard drinks and clear drinks and dark drinks and light beer and dark beer and liquor known to man, all kinds of sodas and waters and whatever, sugary and fake. And we just had a great old time. And I looked at a video, two of them today. Nice facilities inside, smattering of people, handfuls, nothing. Not thankful to God for anything. Oh, we sing songs, patriotic songs, and throw his name around like he's one of us. God bless America, not the rest of the world, just us. And everybody went, well, the few that go, maybe even a few less because they stuffed themselves all that junk, so they might have got a little ill yesterday, or maybe had to clean up all that paper trash from all the fireworks or whatever. And, mom and dad and sister, bruh, auntie and unc came over to visit us. So we don't want to bring them to church. We know they're not saved. So, we going to just entertain them with TV and more beer. And so I looked, just a handful of people, mostly kids, and I'm saying, this is sick. Give God fake honorable mention, but we don't worship him. Wonder why our nation's going down the tubes. I'm surprised it lasts as long as it has. But no truth. And we keep provoking God. We keep provoking him to do something to us by our behaviors. Keep provoking. For example, all this talk within the last few weeks of the fault lines and organizations saying California, you're on the verge of a smackdown. And here's the data why, here's the proof why. And I'm not one to dispute data. I'm a data hound. I want to know facts. I'm like, yeah, the data's pretty solid. I know who's in charge though, but still, the data is pretty solid. And then all of a sudden, you get earthquakes all over the place around the world. You get a little shaking in California too, up in northern Cal, central Cal. Yeah, okay. We keep provoking God. This stupid legislature down here in Sacramento has now made it remove the felony from people sexually abusing children, what they call willing children, made it less of a crime. This I've been around long enough to know I've never heard of this before, where now you're freely given reign to sexually abused children. And the legislature in California gave the green light for it to happen. I'm all for an earthquake in Sacramento, a big one. Yeah. We keep provoking God because we don't think anything's going to happen. We mock New York and Oregon and these other states because they have lunatics running the place. And you think ours is any better? Tax upon tax upon tax upon tax. 63.1 cent gas tax, July 1st. We already have the highest tax in the country and highest gas tax in the country. And you think these morons are going to do with that money to fix the roads that they've been promising to fix? Propositions been passed and lied to forever and a day. They keep provoking, keep provoking, keep provoking. And one day God's going to go, that's it, I'm done. And I think that day is a lot sooner than you think. The point is, we act as if God has nothing to do with anything. We're running the show here. We determine what we're going to do. We lie and cheat and steal, abuse and hurt people, and we don't care. We put our cameras on the fake tears and lies and think that somehow or another that's going to be excused. God has a plan, though, that's fixed in the time when each country and state should be settled and the rise and prosperity and fall of each of them. It's going to happen. Different continents and islands have not therefore been settled by chance, but by a wise rule in accordance with God's arrangement and design. We don't get it. Where men should live and how long they shall continue, or distinct periods of time in which every man was or is to come into the world, it's already fixed, determined by God. Why are we making a big fuss about it? In that regard, we already know God's in charge. But you know what? No, I don't. That's what I'm talking about. Everyone's getting all the hair in the muss over things they can't change. The revolutions and changes of nations are under the direct and infinite wisdom of God. Now, the greatest truth that I left off last week that we don't seem to get, that is more than likely rejected, completely rejected by humanity concerning the creation itself, why God created us, and why he's sustaining us. Nothing's by accident. So the questions are, what is the purpose of why nations exist and the peoples dwelling on them? Is it just for them? We need to think about what God told Pharaoh. For this cause have I raised you up, that I might show my power through you or in you. Okay, God raised up Egypt for his benefit, not the Pharaoh. The Pharaohs were all worshipers of various idols and gods, and they thought they were in charge. And the true and living God said, excuse me, but I raised you up. That's an incredible statement, even in of itself. I raised you up. I am responsible for your existence. I am responsible for your elevation, that I will show my glory to you in how judge your ignorant behinds through the Red Sea and through the plagues. My glory was revealed in rescuing my people, my stubborn, stiff-necked people, Israel, from your stinking land of captivity. I demonstrated my glory, that after that, you were one of the weakest nations ever. I did that. It wasn't about you, Pharaoh. It wasn't about you, Egypt. And it's not about you, Mr. President. We'll get to that. Number 2, why are we here? And what was and is the purpose of the very reason for our existence and creation? These are things that nobody wants to address, or very few. But we had a great celebration yesterday, yet the churches were empty. Seats everywhere. You could go through 15 seats during the whole service, and you wouldn't bump into a soul. Number 3, what is the purpose of the individual and collective lives of every single person on this earth from the moment Adam and Eve were created, and every single person and nation since creation itself? What is the purpose? God has a purpose. He just didn't do stuff to be doing stuff. Oh, yeah, hope that hot dog and sausage and ribs and burnt ends and all that was real good. Did you go to church today? Did you give God glory? Were you too drunk? Number 4, is it the priority of sustaining the nation and creating for ourselves a nation of comfort and ease? Oh, Howard, you are so arrogant and irritating. Is it the priority of sustaining the nation and creating for ourselves a nation of comfort and ease? Was that the purpose of America? 250 years of wars and killings and slavery, and millions have lost their lives in this country alone so that we can eat food and get fat on holidays and forget the very reason why we're even here? And beyond that, which we haven't even addressed, is it to provide a way of life that continues our personal and national way of selfishness and idolatry? Oh, you're going to get the whooping today from the listeners. They're going to whoop you because they're not going to want to hear you ever. They don't have to. They should. You're not going to hear from anyone today in godless religion or even in the political realm. They're not going to tell you these things. Why are we here? What was and is the purpose and the very reason for our existence and creation? Well, we may have all lived all of our life and never thought about the answer that we're going to see in the text. Back to Acts again. Still that same chapter. Okay. Acts 17. Look at verse 24. God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither is worship with men's hands, as though he needed anything, seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things, and hath made of one blood all nations for men, or of men, for to dwell on the face of the earth, hath determined the times before appointed, and the bounds of their habitation. Here it is. So that they should seek the Lord. Stop. They should seek the Lord. Have you ever thought about that? Of course not. You never thought to yourself, wow, all this creation is done, and it's so plain and obvious who did it, so that I may seek the Lord. If you do, you are an anomaly of anomalies, because I can assure you, I never did that until I got saved. So that this is the purpose. The word "that" is what's called a hina clause. It's the purpose clause of everything we just read from verses 24 through 26. God created everything and everyone, sustains everything and everyone, all the nations, everything, for the purpose, Adam and Eve, the whole deal, so that you should seek the Lord. That's why you're here. Not give me another Wayne and sauce and a sparkler and more liquor and soda and junk and ice cream, but you should seek the Lord, not the Pepto or the other stuff, because milk and magnesia, because you're too sick, eating yourself to a frenzy and forgetting about why you're even here in the first place. Ungrateful. How much we're thankful to be in America. How about being thankful to the one who created the thing? Oh, I know you didn't hear that today. If haply they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. Wow. Because of God, we live and move and have our being. God has determined that all men of every race and culture should seek him, reach out to him, see his proof of existence through creation itself, and to understand that God is not distant. He's not unreachable. He's not uncaring. He's not unattainable. He's so very close that his presence surrounds us, and his ultimate plan for us cries out for us to turn to him all the time. You have no excuse. None. Zero. Zero. None. And you know it's true. You know it's true. That's the thing I wanted to share today, but I'm not done yet. Go back to Isaiah 40. But that's the bulk of the thing, that we don't know why we're here. We are here because our Creator has made us and put us here and wants us to seek and to thank him and to worship him instead of our hamburgers and cheeseburgers and deep fried steaks and burnt ends and bacon wrapped hot dogs wrapped in bacon, more bacon and ham and sandwiches and tacos and taquitos and chimichangas and what's the pigskins, chitterlings and chitlins, and what's the fried pig, chicharrones. Yeah, that's not why we're here. We don't get it. We don't get it. Celebrating 250 years and don't know anything about how we got here in the first place. Ignorant of the Constitution, ignorant of why we're here. Then have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to call this place a Christian nation. Absolute nonsense. Isaiah 40. Look at what God says. I want you to think about that part. That's part one. Oh, part two gets better. He said part one is painful. Part two gets even more painful. Because we have people from all over this world because of some dumb white black ball kicking the World Cup. And they were celebrating with us. Where was one video I saw where, and it's black folk, of course, but anyway, I digress. And it was a foreign country. I forgot which country it was. And they were praising Jesus during the soccer game. I went, that's wonderful. They're giving God glory. At least that group got it. Giving God glory. At least that group got it. I'm sure there might have been some others, but our influence around the world is second to none. We call ourselves the greatest nation that ever was. Well, I guess that depends on who you ask, but and what determines what a great nation is. I mean, God's design for Israel was to make them the greatest nation, which is what he said, but they kicked that to the curb. That'll be restored later after the tribulation period. But I digress. Let's just say right now, America allegedly is the greatest nation on earth. Me personally, I don't want to live anywhere else. Oh, we got plenty of faults. We got more faults than the San Andreas fault line. But that doesn't mean I want to go somewhere else. Okay. I'm good. And we are a great nation. Nationally, influence all over the place. And I don't care if you believe me or not, we have a great president. Right now. I don't care if you like him or not, personally. I'm sitting here laughing. This man is playing the whole world. Everybody's thinking like a politician. They're not thinking like him. And I'm saying, just watch, look at him play everybody. He's getting everything done he wants done. Playing and making everybody look the fool they are. I'm thinking, let me sit back here and observe, because I always talk about observation. Observation is gold. People don't know how to observe. They just got to run their mouths all the time, say stupid stuff. Like, you need to listen and watch. You're going to learn something. Causation, correlation. I see what he's doing. He's playing chess. Most folk don't even know what the game is. And he's mastering the game. I'm going like, look, he ain't saved. And neither were the rest of them that came before him talking about Jesus. Ronald Reagan was a Christian. Ronald Reagan was asked on television. I saw it on television with my own eyes when he was running against Walter Mondale. And the question came about being born again. Of course, Mondale mumbled his nonsense, but they asked Ronald Reagan, are you born? Ronald Reagan said, well, I don't even know what it means about being born again. I like to fell on the ground. He admitted he didn't even know what it was. He didn't know the meaning of it being born again. Well, and I was yelling at the TV, if a man is not born again, he shall not see the kingdom of God. Everybody taught him such a great, great Christian when the man didn't even know out of his own mouth what it means to be born again. You ain't gonna get mad at me, just pull it up. You're so savvy about everything, pull it up. He didn't know. Great nation. Yeah, we are. We're great as far as industry goes. Oh, yeah. Militarily, yeah, yeah. And in wickedness. Oh, yeah. We great in wickedness. The very technologies that we have advanced and have been used for good and evil. The most grossest sins stem not only from America, but in this stinking state of California. It's amazing God didn't sink this place into the ocean. The reason why he didn't do it, because he's giving folks a chance to be saved. That's all I could say about that. Why say all this? Because I want you to understand when you read verse 50, where you are as a nation and every other nation, lesser or greater, is a comparison to God. Verse 50, Isaiah 40. Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as the small. Isaiah 40, verse 15. What did I say? That's right. Thank you. 15, 1 5. Isaiah 40, verse 15. Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing. And just run to verse 16. Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor the beast thereof sufficient for burnt offering. Verse 17. All nations before him are as nothing, if they are counted to him less than nothing, and vanity means nothing. So no matter how great your nation is, real or imagined, the fact is, before God, you're insignificant. God has shown us the insignificance of man. The absolute insignificance of man as far as his ability to maintain his own life and the affairs of it and the duration of it. And he went individually first, right? Okay. In that he said, man is like the flowers and the grass. The flower withereth, okay, the grass withers and the flower falleth away. So individually, he says, man is insignificant because man is temporal. He is, no matter what his glory is, he is no greater than a dead flower and dying grass. That's offensive. Yeah. Here comes more offensive. So he goes from the individual insignificance to the national insignificance. That's genius to me. He says, no matter how beautiful an individual may appear in all of their glory and however they live, whatever they achieve, and whatever, they're all temporal. Now, to further show the absolute insignificance of mankind compared to him, he says, look, all the nations, not just the individual, but the collective of all humanity and the nations of the world compared to him are nothing. We celebrate our greatness and not the one who's greater than all of us. And we think we okay. Yeah, you had a great 3-day weekend. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. You know what I did while you was eating sausages and blowing stuff up? I was going over these notes, going like, yeah, yeah. Getting radio and TV done. Send all this stuff out to peoples that the word could be proclaimed, a word you don't even care about. He says, behold the nations, all the nations of the earth. And this is intended to show the greatness of God in comparison with that which strikes man as great. And we call America great. Songs, America the Great, America the Beautiful, it's great. All the nations that was, is, and will ever be, all together with all of its inhabitants, all of the power of every king and kingdom, president, potentate, dictator, whatever, elected and not, the size of its populace, its people, its work, its technologies, its education, its religion, and everything else that I could have posted here, could have been talking about for an hour. but I'm not. When you take a drop of water, not even a cup, but a drop, a single drop of water, and drop it into a pail. Bucket means a pail. Just drop it in there. And if you did that, unless you knew where the water went, the odds are you wouldn't even see it. Drop it in, looking around, you know, I can't see it. Bring me the flashlight. And you go in there. I think there it is over there. But I don't know. It's just a drop. Hmm. Yep. The illustrations are incredible. That God says all the nations of the world are like a single drop of water in a big pail. That's what he says. One writer said this, quoting, "The main object seems to be to show that God could accomplish his purposes without their aid, and that they could not resist him in the execution of his plans. If they were as nothing in comparison with him, how easily could he execute his purposes? If they were as nothing, how little could they resist the execution of his plans?" End of quote. It's exactly what these passages are teaching us about God and about us and about us individually and about us collectively. We don't know who God is, and we don't know who we are. We haven't got that right yet. Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Now, the same insignificant nations are also counted as dust particles on a scale. Now, I've been many times in my life to the grocery store, various kinds, okay, whether it's the name stuff, and I've seen the scales that have the electronic scales, and then they have the ones for the vegetables, and then you go to certain markets or certain eateries, and they won't charge you for the styrofoam deal, so they and they put it on there, and they put your styrofoam plate in, and then they zero it out because they don't want to. You're not buying a plate, you're buying the food per se. Good ones do that. Everyone else ripping you off. Anyway, I can guarantee you that when the store is closed, all those scales have dust on them. Yeah. And they turn the machines on, and guess what the scale says? Nothing. Nothing. Dust has no weight. It's just dust on the scale. Fine dust. You don't even see it. It's there, but you don't see it. You don't think about it. You might clean it off, which is a good idea, but you don't really see it. It's not part of your conscious mind. You just turn the machine on. So when someone's like to get a quarter pound of bologna, you just put it up, and then put the paper down. You don't blow it off. Wouldn't matter anyway. Fine dust. On the most accurate scales would measure nothing. It wouldn't have any effect. How about one of these scales, the old ones? I've seen those too. You think dust would do that? Would make one side go? No, of course not. Would make the scales uneven? Would make it either side outweigh the other? Nope. Nothing can be a more striking representation of the fact that the nations are regarded as nothing in comparison to God. And yet, what do? We boast about the nation, like we did yesterday, like we done before, like we'll do again. But yet the churches are empty. I looked at the congregations, kids, maybe a mom. Oh, plenty of pews, plenty nice looking facilities, all empty. And they're usually the same people you see sitting in the same seats. And the preacher's waxy eloquent doing his job. And nobody cares. Empty facilities breaks my heart. Empty, no one there. Then it says the isles or the islands, all the islands he either upholds or, like the dust, so light and insignificant, he can remove them at his whim. They're nothing to him. Nothing compared to God. And they have no means of resisting his absolute will, doing all that pleases him, independent of all humanity and all other beings and of creation itself. Verse 16, Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor the beast thereof sufficient for a burnt offering. If there's one thing we know about Lebanon in scripture, they have plenty of wood. And it wasn't just any wood, it was the best. The abundance of the forests and the cattle that were in Lebanon were not remotely sufficient to offer up a sacrifice. You could take every single tree and every single cattle and offer them up to the Lord, and it wouldn't be sufficient for him to even be moved by it. Burnt offering signified the worshiper's dedication to the Lord. Even if you did that, it wouldn't be enough, really. This is amazing. I know why people don't teach the Old Testament. It's a smack-a-lack right upside our heads, and we don't want to do it. All this is to reveal again the absolute greatness of Almighty God in a way that is designed to overwhelm us, not to bring God down to a level that is a bit higher than man and thus like mankind. No, it's designed to overwhelm our minds and our senses to the point that he is understood as totally incomprehensible to us. In other words, he is God. And as such, we are totally accountable to him and obligated to worship him, period. Here's a post comment. Wow, we surely do not think more. Or rather, we surely do think more highly of ourselves big time. Wow, less than nothing we are. Wow, God is so far from our thinking. Thank God that he is God. Yeah, definitely. Brother Earl, definitely. Nothing. And less than nothing. That's what this verse 17 is. I just want to read it. We'll get to that next time. All the nations before him are as nothing. And you're going to see this kind of teaching throughout the rest of Isaiah. God exalts himself. And this is all before the nation of Israel and Judah. Like, all these idols you guys been worshiping, I'm God. All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing. Vanity is nothing. It's another word for emptiness. Nothing. In fact, the word really means non-entities, which means it is as if they've never existed in comparison to God. We do not see ourselves that way, individually or collectively. Not in the least. We see ourselves far different than what God says. That's why I've been saying forever. Until we get the proper understanding of who God is, it doesn't matter what we're doing religiously, because it's not going to be right. But we'll have our happy church, our happy religion. Don't get me wrong, because we've always had it. But the idea of actually learning about God in this fashion, oh no. It will clear the place out. Clear it out. Because we don't want to hear about this stuff. Wow. Howard, I'm disappointed. Yeah, well, you know what Harley says, right? What does Harley usually say? Harley don't care about your disappointment. Why care about that? You need to be concerned about what this Bible says, like I do. All right. Again, Lord willing, tomorrow back to Proverbs Tuesday will be no committed 100. I got to do some medical stuff for the VA. Be in prayer about that. I appreciate it. And Lord willing, Wednesday will resume. But yeah, Monday will be, Lord willing, be back, Book of Proverbs. Thank you, Brother Earl, again for not only your comment, but your dedication, getting out the word, allowing us the privilege of being part of what God is doing through and to you. All right, folks, Lord willing, take heed to what God is saying, what the Spirit is saying to the churches.